know each and every one of you know her, most of you know her very well. She extends so much help to everybody because she has been helping for many, many years as an ICU nurse, as a healer. Oh my gosh, I can say so many amazing things about her, but she has grown to be such a dynamic force in this world that we have this alternative healing where she takes Western medicine and she's able to actually bridge it into alternative medicine for people, because sometimes there's such a disconnect in the middle where people they know conventional medicine is not working for them, but what do they do? And Rebecca is brilliant. I've never seen anyone be able to do what she can do by bridging the two together. So she today is going to talk to you about Reconnective Healing, the healing frequencies of that, and how it aligns. You'll see how it aligns with Omega's products and the amazing cutting edge technology that we have. So, I am of course speaking about Rebecca Girouard. I realize I have not said her name yet, but please give a warm welcome to Rebecca Girouard.
Thank you, everyone. If my voice starts to trail off, just give me a signal there. This is the first time that I've used this type of a mic. So Ron's going to help me move the table, and then we'll get started here. Thanks. Shannon, and thank you very much for your introduction, Shannon. I appreciate it. It's very kind. As Shannon had said, I had spent 20 years being an intensive care nurse, and I worked in open heart as well, and also the PREMI unit, the NICU. And I've done lots of other things as well and taught. And most of you here, I think, know my healing story from multiple sclerosis. 2 years ago, I became a Reconnective Healing practitioner. And it was due to me having met in February of 2011 at the Omega conference down in Long Beach, a colleague from New Orleans. We got to know each other over those few days, and she got to know about my background. And a few months after that conference, she sent me an email to tell me that she had taken this 4-day course called Reconnective Healing and the Reconnection. And she felt that there was something about it that would meld with me, that I would understand what was going on with this. And she came from a bit of a different background, did other types of energy work. And so, she sent me the link to thereconnection.com, and she said, check it out, because I think this is something that you need to be doing. And I thought, well, how would she know that? Because she really didn't know in depth about me. So I went to the website, and I looked at it, I thought, something seems very familiar about this. And I ordered the book called The Reconnection by Dr. Eric Pearl. And so I signed up for the course. In November, 2 years ago, I was over in Vancouver, British Columbia, and I spent 2 days over there doing level 1 and level 2 that's called Reconnective Healing. And when I stepped into that, I had a deep sense that there was something else going on. And they talked about this reconnective healing spectrum of frequencies that have been scientifically, we have the evidence of that. And along with that came the information that Dr. Konstantin Korotkov, who also spoke to us in February of 2011, that he participated in the research that gives us the book, Science Confirms Reconnective Healing. And so science being right up my alley, I just kind of went right into that, and the rest is history. So for the last 2 years, I've been doing reconnective healing. I do a lot of distant work, and I have a practice. I arrived down to Newport Beach on the 2nd of November, and I spent the 4th, actually the evening of the 2nd, with Dr. Eric Pearl and Frederick Ponslov. And they gave us the book Solomon Speaks, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. On the 4th and 5th of November, I became a practitioner of the Reconnection, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. So that's how I ended up being here. How many of you have heard about the Reconnection? How many of you have the book? Okay. How many of you have experienced Reconnective Healing? And how many of you have had experience with Reiki, perhaps, or Qigong, other types of energy work? Okay, so that gives me a little bit of an understanding of who I'm talking to. Back in the early 1990s, Eric Pearl, he was a very well-known chiropractor in the Hollywood area, and he went to bed one night. And he was woken in the middle of the night with a bright light. And when he opened his eyes, his lamp next to his bed was turned on. And he thought, well, that's strange. And he and his dog got up and they went through the house trying to figure out, was there an intruder or what was going on, and there wasn't anybody there. But he had the sense that something was present. He went back to bed. The next day when he went to work on his patients, as he came towards them to do their adjustment, they moved back and so that they could feel what they sensed were his hands, but he didn't have his hands on him. As time went along, interesting things started to happen in that healings were occurring that had nothing to do with the person's need for adjustment. And some of those healings were extremely profound. They, what I call, defy Western medicine. And people started flying in from around the world as word got around, since word travels the fastest. People started flying in to see him, and more profound healings started to occur for people. And then the scientists started to pay attention. And what ended up happening is that Dr. Gary Schwartz from the University of Arizona and Dr. Konstantin Korotkov from St. Petersburg, Russia, and Dr. William Tiller, who's a professor emeritus at Stanford, and he is what I call the grandfather of quantum physics. And he has done an enormous amount of work with thermodynamic free energy, measuring that energy. And they got together and they put together the parameters for a study, which when they did the study, it ended up that science confirmed reconnective healing. And that is this book here. Back in the earlier years of Dr. Eric Pearl's work, people started to ask if they too could learn. And he really didn't have an idea of how that would come out to be. So through time, he was able to, with the help of some others, figure out what it was that was going on, and the scientists' help. And he developed the level 1 and level 2 course so that you could become a reconnective healing practitioner. In addition, the reconnection, which was introduced to him by a woman in the area where he lived, actually a woman who did readings down on the beach. She was the link that sent him to the information that was available of how to have our bodies reconnected to the ley lines of the earth and the grid of the universe. We are that thing that's in between. We have that ability to communicate between what the earth holds for us and the information field that is out there that comes to us. So that became the reconnection, and it's a very specific 2-day process for a person. And when you have the reconnection done, it is a one-time event. It is a choice that people make. The frequencies that are coming to us have been coming, these new ones, have been coming to us since the early 1990s. people have different understandings about what the universe holds for us. It actually is the frequencies that are held in zero-point field. So think of what we have with Omega's technology. The Earth, the Sun, has been more dramatically active. So over the last couple decades, it's been sending new stuff to us. Those are frequencies, photons. And our body, we have the ability through Reconnective Healing, when you're a client with the practitioner, we're actually accessing those frequencies, and they're coming through us to you. And once those frequencies get in your body, you will always have them. They reprogram your DNA. You can never go back to what you were before you had that. With the reconnection, that process, also in reconnecting you with the universe, does more for your DNA and actually has the ability to accelerate your life path. You're brought into what I call the North Star. So we tend to be like the needle in a compass, where we're swinging back and forth. We're making decisions throughout the day and throughout the weeks. And what I find my clients report back to me, and what I experienced myself, was this automatic zeroing in on the North Star, okay, or becoming in alignment with what is the truth for me, and the ability to stand in that truth and live my life in that truth. For those of you who don't, I'm going to be doing a draw later on for this book, but for those of you who have not seen this book, please get it. When this came into my hand, I realized that over the previous 5 years, I had picked this book up at the bookstore and thumbed through it and put it back on the shelf. And when I had thumbed through it, I thought, oh, it's one of those other hands-on healing books about how-to. It's far from it. In this book holds the full story of what happened with Dr. Eric Pearl and what has gone on since, what we know. And I don't see any sense in me repeating it when you can read it yourselves. This book is profound. Oftentimes people will say when they hold this book, they feel something. There is something with this. And I see some head shaking who have read it, holding it, what the words, how the words capture them. This book is changing lives around the world. It is published now in 37 languages. We now have well over 100,000 Reconnective Healing practitioners globally. Over 20,000 of them are modern medicine practitioners. Doctors, nurses, reflexologists, physios, kinesiologists, on and on and on. Those Western medical people know what's going on with this. And in some hospitals in Europe, even the doctors in training have to know how to do reconnective healing. The nurses have to know how to do reconnective healing. That's how instantaneous this is. This is about giving people a gift that they will hold for the rest of their life. And when you get these frequencies in you, you will be able to access all the other frequencies that are going to be given to us. These are frequencies that we don't see, but they're coming to us. This is very important. The reconnection is extremely powerful. I had my reconnection done on the 2nd and the 3rd, and Shannon did that for me. And we don't normally share our own personal experience with it because it's different for everybody, just like when we use Ami's fusion technology. is the frequencies of 0-point field, and the body will respond in kind, whatever is appropriate to that person. And so we pay attention, we become the observer. We observe to see what's going on with us. Oftentimes with my clients, I think the most important thing is that my clients be given the opportunity to share with me a little bit about what their experience is, because it's multisensory. We're going out of this four-dimensional situation that we're in, and we're going into another place. And so that can be different for everybody. Mine was profound. Everybody needs to be offered the reconnection. Shannon has a Blog Talk radio show as well as I, and I had the opportunity to participate with Cecilia Sands, who is a co-instructor for Dr. Eric Pearl. And the three of us had this conversation. It's about a three-part series, I think, Shannon. And in that, when I was asked to talk about reconnective healing, this work, I feel, because of my background as a nurse, is the equivalent of being present at a birth. And I've been there for many births, and I have birthed babies, as well as the moment when a person passes. And I've been with probably 2,000 people that I've cared for over my career in that process of passing. It is to me, and these are my words, it is the divine. It's very special. And so to offer someone, to be able to offer someone the gift of reconnective healing, there are a few of you here who I have done reconnective healing on. Either I have shared the frequencies with you, or I have done distant work on you, or I've had you up on the table here, or you've been in my office at home. It is a gift to be able to do that, to be able to share that relationship with the universe and you. To me, it's very intimate. So what I'll be doing up here is there's a couple people that I've already spoken to. I would like to do a little bit of work here so that you can observe what it is that we do. Reconnective healing is hands-off. The science behind it, I can talk for hours about this. The science behind it is important. And the doctors, the guys who contributed to the research is on the back of the book. I remember when Krakow talked to us at the convention in 2011, he spoke about the necessity to have the parameters of a study set up so that it would be acceptable to Western medicine. That is the way that Western medicine or modern medicine would gain an understanding that something was happening, that we have this scientific evidence. And so he set to work making sure that we had the categories set out. So what he did was he said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take 6 different popular energy healing practices, modalities, what I call them. And then he had a reconnective healer. And the same parameters applied to each of those practitioners, and it applied to each of the clients. And then they ran all the categories. So they looked at heart rate and EEG, the electroencephalogram that shows the pattern of the brain. They looked at heart-brain coherence. And they looked at DNA studies, immune modulation, so they did blood work, they did oxygen tests and all of this. The reason why this is so huge is that what they found is that through all the other modalities that they were looking at, none of those put the patient, the client, in the state that reconnective healing does with these frequencies. All the rest of those practices fall under what we call energy medicine. The thing with energy medicine, or working with energy, is that energy dissipates the farther away we get. With reconnective healing frequencies, the effect gets stronger the farther away we get. So for those of you who saw me working up here, when I can get across the stage and I can still see an effect in my client, that's because the effect is getting stronger and stronger. The importance of that shows Western medicine that the frequencies that we're working with are doing things. In fact, in Russia and some other areas, even the athletes, their competitive athletes, are having reconnective healing the day before they go into their sessions. Why? Because it brings them into a coherent state that is higher than what they would have if they didn't have it. And therefore, their performance is greater. Back on the wellness table, I put in a CD. It's Dr. Krotkov's The Science of Measuring Energy Fields. And if you haven't seen it, I highly advise you to stop by. It's about a 45-minute content of about the hour and a half that he gave us in 2011. That particular CD is making a difference to a whole lot of people. And if other alternative doctors, haven't seen it, or other healthcare professionals haven't seen it or utilize it in their practice, I highly recommend. It's available on thereconnection.com. And I know I've spoken with Mr. Arun about the possibility of getting authorization to be able to have that available to us as Omegans, because when you can see this happening, then you realize more. One of the other, just get my glasses here. One of the others is the Science of the Reconnection, which is done by Doug DeVito, and I also have the Science of the Reconnection. It's a panel discussion between Eric Pearl, Dr. William Tiller, Konstantin Krotkov, and Gary Schwartz. And I also have a DVD of The Essence of Healing by Dr. Eric Pearl. So there's lots behind it. My own experience with reconnective healing when I had it was a very sort of physical, the physical changes that are going on, also extrasensory. And most of my clients, they like to have the validation or talk about what they have experienced for themselves. What I would like to do here is have Rob, would you come up?